Today, I bring up issues about the January 25th, 1971 military coup in Uganda and how Dr. Milton Obote would have avoided the same through options that were available. Please subscribe, comment, and give a like. The 1971 coup in Uganda was the culmination of months of speculation, open discussions, debates, and news announcements. The following has been observed: that on 29th September 1970, Radio South Africa suspended programs and announced that a coup was in progress in Uganda. This followed major changes in army leadership structure. Brigadier Amin had been promoted to Major General by Milton Obote through the Defense Council. This was considered essentially a ceremonial role. The post was previously occupied by Major General Shaban Opolot prior to his detention. Powers that had been held by Amin was distributed to Brigadier Suleiman Hussein as the new Chief of Staff and Colonel Juma Musa, who was appointed Air Force Commander. The question that is being asked today is, what was the interest of South African radio announcing the coup 5 months before the coup itself, which took place on 25th January 1971? Why did Dr. Obote not take countermeasures to understand the sort of information that was being relayed? He needed to interrogate the source of information and take appropriate action. His cousin, Dr. Ken Adoko, was in charge of intelligence at that time. Among issues of importance here concerns the case of Major Karugaba. Major Karugaba Augustine was among the first Ugandans to train at Sandhurst in 1961. Among his peers were Mrisho Sam Hagai Sarakikia, who later on became the commander of the Tanzania People's Defense Forces. When Karugaba left Sandhurst in August 1962, he had an opportunity to serve as aide-de-camp to the Duke of Kent, who represented his cousin Queen Elizabeth II at Uganda's independence ceremonies in October 1962. Karugaba had an opportunity to undertake infantry training at the School of Infantry at Hythe and War Minister in 1963. He rose through the ranks and was promoted to a major and designated as Deputy Adjutant and Quartermaster General. The proposal made by the British to have him made Army Commander was rejected by Milton Obote. Dr. Obote had in mind Major Opolot and Idi Amin. Is it possible that this proposal would have brought to the fore a professional man whose contribution may have helped Uganda avoid turmoil in later years? However, Karugaba took an early retirement from the army in October 1964. Another area that was critical in this discussion was the mutiny of soldiers of the East African armies in 1964. The East African-wide mutiny of soldiers in 1964 is an example of how problems would be created for the government of Dr. Milton Obote. In Tanzania, mutineers were sacked en masse and a new army was created. While in Kenya, the participants in the mutiny of 1964 from Lanet were imprisoned and dismissed from the army. In Uganda, it was opposite. Although the mutineers were tried and sentenced, they were all pardoned and reintegrated into the army. It was argued that these joined forces in contributing to indiscipline and the coup of 1971. The option was to sack the participants of the mutiny. Another factor that presents an issue in this discussion is the crisis of 1966. The wide use of the army in removing President Mutesa was another factor. The attack on the palace of the king and president of Uganda created deep divisions in the army. However, there are many who have argued that the Kabaka should not, in the first place, have become the president. Deep-rooted religious differences did play a role. Idi Amin created a power base in one of the Kabaka's palace at Bamlanika, where 2,000 pro-Amin loyalists were trained. These soldiers played a crucial role in overthrowing Obote on the coup day. They had been redeployed to different military barracks due to suspicions leveled against them. Questions that are being asked today is how a 2,000-man force can be employed and paid a salary, yet the entire army command is not aware. Lieutenant Colonel Oito Jok was the adjutant and quartermaster general. How could this have happened under his watch? How was the money obtained in the budget without parliamentary approval? What was the role of Felix Onama, the defense minister, who also was Obote's brother-in-law? Another factor that is critical here touches on the attempt to assassinate Dr. Milton Obote when he was coming from Lugogo Stadium, where he had gone to close the Uganda People's Congress rally. Amin did not show up immediately, which led to a lot of suspicions. Hot on the heels of the attempt to assassinate Dr. Milton Obote was the assassination of Brigadier Pierino Okoya and his wife Anna Kello at their home in Gulu on 25th January 1970. Brigadier Okoya was the Deputy Army Chief of Staff and Commanding Officer of the 2nd Infantry Brigade based in Masaka. It is Brigadier Okoya who wondered loudly as to why Idi Amin did not show up immediately. There was an attempt on the life of Dr. Milton Obote. Although investigations were pointing on Idi Amin as the main culprit, no immediate action was taken against him. Okoya's death sent shivers in the army. Soldiers became suspicious of each other, and there was tension that was witnessed in many barracks. It was here that sharp divisions developed in the army ranks. There was another factor here, and this one touches on Obote attending the Commonwealth meeting in Singapore. Dr. Obote chose to travel to Singapore for the Commonwealth meeting instead of presiding over his orders of arresting Idi Amin. It should be known that Obote's problems had become acute and he was reluctant to leave Kampala for Singapore. However, an agenda concerning Ted Heath's plan to sell arms to South Africa required his presence. Both Kenneth Kaunda and Julius Nyerere and other leaders put pressure on him to attend. They, however, regretted their actions. Under the circumstances, Obote should not have issued orders to be implemented while he was outside the country. His own cousin, Aken Odoko, in charge of the General Service Unit, chose to fly out to India for the Commonwealth Lawyers Association meeting. This again was against the principles of proper security measures. The emphasis on Lubiri Barracks and the General Service Unit to effect arrest was actually a failure of operation strategy. Lieutenant Colonel Kwengu, who was in charge of Maliri Mechanized Unit, was eliminated by 8 o'clock on 24th January 1971. In the absence of Akena, the General Service Unit was a toothless bulldog. All other barracks had not been put on alert. Most of the military barracks were headed by Obote loyalists. Many of the commanding officers had been trained in Britain and Israel. They all caught unawares. Bamnanika trained soldiers and other Amin loyalists had taken over military barracks all over the Republic by midnight of 25th January 1971. Dr. Obote, while telling his lifetime story, said that he regretted ever trusting Idi Amin. He said that when he had been a prime minister for a few months, Governor Sir Walter Coates asked him to go to State House. He advised him to dismiss Idi Amin from the army on account of killing of the Turkanas during an operation on the Turkana-Karamoja border. But Obote, however, declined. He chose to give Amin a severe reprimand. The governor warned him that Amin would cause severe trouble in future. He regretted his decision not to heed to Sir Walter Coates. There was also another aspect of great importance here, and this touched on the Congolese rebellion of the 1960s, which occurred in the eastern part of the Congo. The gun-running errands that Obote gave Amin on behalf of the Congolese rebels served to create another power block. The Congolese rebels were paying for arms in terms of gold and dollars. The rebel outfit was in response to the killing of Patrice Lumumba, who had been elected president of the Congo. In later years, Amin was able to recruit the rebels into his loyalist army. In later years, Obote regretted applying socialist and nationalization policy in Uganda. He actually said he wished he never attempted any socialist and nationalization policies. The move to the left was part of his undoing. It made him very unpopular. Finally, it may pay to ponder over this. In January 1963, Tanganyika President Julius Nyerere proposed to Dr. Milton Obote to have the armies of Tanganyika and Uganda combined. This, he argued, would improve the strength of both countries. Kenya would also be invited to join in when the nation became independent. Initially, Obote considered this move. However, he was advised by Colonel Chain, the British Army commander of the Ugandan Rifles, against the move. His arguments were that Tanganyika Rifles were inferior to Ugandan Rifles and were ill-disciplined. Obote rejected this proposal. Maybe this came to light with the mutiny of 1964 of the armies of Tanganyika, Kenya, and Uganda, which actually started in Tanganyika and then spread to Uganda and Kenya. What is your comment on this proposal? Kindly subscribe, comment, and like. Asante.